Hi friends! Just by the looks of it, yes, today we are covering the newly released NATASHA DENONA Pastel palette, covering the details, doing the swatches, and we'll be doing a few looks. I don't like how this light look. Hold on. Is that better? Let me know down below. It's snowing today. The lighting is not ideal, but I wanted to film and get this video up as quickly as possible, as it will be available online the 15th. It was available for pre-order a few days ago on NATASHADENONA.com. It will be available online, not only NATASHADENONA.com, but in the Sephora, all the different Sephoras across the globe. Beautylish.com, Cult Beauty, look fantastic, feel unique. Selfridges and in stores here, Sephora. I don't know if in the stores on the 15th. My apologies. If it's your first time here, hi, I love covering NATASHA DENONA palettes. I have all of them. Maybe not the cranberry palette, I'm a liar. I not only do reviews of NATASHA DENONA palettes, but I like to revisit them, create new looks to remind ourselves that when buying luxury palettes that it is nice, especially if they're 15 shades, to not use them once but use them multiple times, right? To remember what we have in our collection. This palette was sent to me, thank you to the NATASHA DENONA team, but I also bought it. So because that all happened at the same time, I'm going to return the one that I purchased. This is the one that was sent. This is a limited edition palette. When it comes to limited edition and NATASHA DENONA, we're gonna take that with a grain of salt. The 7th MIDI palette in her collection from when Sunrise dropped a few years ago. It does retail for $65, weighs in at 19.25 grams. It has a suggested shelf life of 24 months, and this palette is made in Italy. I saw NATASHA DENONA's story about the pastel palette, and she had explained where her inspo came from creating a curation of colors that was unique, fully committing to the pastel story without the inclusion of neutral shades, any browns and beiges. These are all pastel shades, whether they come in the cream to powder formula, the powder matte formula, or the metallic. And we also have a new formula in the pastel palette. I will highlight what that is when we get to the swatches. On the info card, it says travel beyond traditional pastels with NATASHA's stunning selection of deliciously creamy springtime shades. From playful pinks and yellows to delicate purples and blues, the pastel eyeshadow palette is bursting with lush, inspiring color. Along with her signature cream powder matte, sparkling metallics, and duochromes, the pastel eyeshadow palette also introduces an innovative new formula, a vibrant translucent multi-chrome that can be worn alone or as an illuminating top coat. How fun! Here is what the palette looks like. I adore this design. I'm happy that NATASHA went with a soft gradient from the lilac, or rather from a soft pink to lilac to a mint, and on the back you have the pinholes indicating the palette is indeed magnetic, as well as, just to show, this is her bronze palette, the same format here. If you wanted to switch around the eyeshadow pans, you have the freedom to do so. And the frame is this cool lavender gray color. You have the mirror here. The sticker is still on there, but the construction very much takes on the same MIDI design that we've seen before. Let's start with Tulle, a cream to powder matte bubblegum pink. And NATASHA had explained the reason it looks darker in pan is because it is a wet formula, so it will swatch lighter. Introducing the new formula in Illusion, a duochrome sheer peach pink. This is basically your iridescent pink 003. It's a little tough to see, but it has like that overlay effect where you could put it on another pink on here or any color, or just wear it on its own. Mint Frost, repeat shade from the Tropic palette, but again, it is a sparkling metallic icy turquoise. Bora, a cream to powder matte medium lilac. Dainty, a duochrome sparkling pink with golden champagne flecks. Well, that's pretty. That is shiny. My goodness. Brisk, creamy powder matte pastel mint. Adriatic, a duochrome bright turquoise with gold. This is lovely. It has a gold flip in here, placing another swatch on top. It's not as strong as a duochrome shown here in Dainty, but it is a lovely color. And compared to Mint, Mint has more of that metallic finish. Starlet, a duochrome coral pink with a golden peach flip. Bellini, creamy powder matte pastel peach. Bubble, cream to powder matte pastel cornflower. Limoncello, repeat from Tropic, metallic icy pastel yellow. Duet, a duochrome lilac teal. Airy, creamy powder matte pastel sky blue. Zest, a cream to powder matte pastel lime. Lastly, Feather, creamy powder matte pastel lavender pink. Here are all the swatches for the pastel palette. I'm sorry I couldn't get them on one arm. I had to take off my watch, which I didn't do. My apologies. The swatches feel good so far. Let's see how they apply on the eyes. Comparisons will be done at the end of the demo, and as you see, timestamps will be down below, or you can see the designated chapters. Scroll over, click on whatever you want to see or not see. And with swatches out the way, why don't we come in a little closer? That's enough. Eyes are prepped, used my Viseart primer. I'm sorry my nails are not pastel. If I would have tried to paint my nails today, I would not have filmed this until tomorrow, and the delay, fam. Unacceptable. If it's your first time encountering NATASHA DENONA eyeshadows, as I was watching, you probably heard different formulas with the shades. The cream to powder one, and I'll just quickly show you here, it feels wet in the pan. It has a moussey-like texture, but when applied on the eyes, it applies like a powder, but has a very silky feel in terms of the blend. Then you have your more traditional powder matte, still very creamy, but drier in consistency, again, as it takes on a more traditional matte formula. You have a metallic finish like Mint Frost, just has that mint shade, but then you have metallic duochromes as seen here in Starlet, the new formula that's very lightweight, top-like quality that you can apply on its own or over another color. With cream to powders, I find it easier to use a goat hair brush. You could use a synthetic brush as well. I like to use goat hair because it picks up the right amount and it applies it evenly on the eyes. For instance, Sonia's Worker 1, I know it's filthy. This is a goat hair brush, but it is flat on both sides, has nice girth to it, if you will, so that's great pickup. Let's start with Zest. I think Zest is a lovely color, and this comes in the cream to powder formula, which I feel is gonna make for some great stick. Definitely the brightness is there from the get, and you can use this all over the lid just to have like that beautiful washed out color. Very avant-garde, I should say. Or you can use it as an inner corner highlighter, standout, lid color, however you want to place it. I just wanted to place it here first to set up the look from the inside out. We can now go in with, oh my gosh, I don't know, so many decisions to make. Let's try Bellini. Bellini is more of a traditional powder formula, and this is a lot lighter in application. I'm placing it here through the crease. You see there's a little color there. It leads me to reason that I would perhaps rely on Bellini to blend out some of the metallics in here to feather out the edges and create a really nice gradient. For the standout lid color, we can go in with Starlet, we can go in with Illusion or even Tulle. Let's do Starlet. Starlet is this beautiful duochrome metallic shade. I'm overlapping that shade with Zest and using my finger, which I think the best method to pick up these metallic shades with, as I feel it adheres best to the lid in this way. Tapping out the edges so it could feather out some. And as I suspected, Bellini is a lovely shade to blend out the edges of Starlet with. And if you wanted to, you can take a shader type of a brush just to kind of finish off the edges here. Starlet reminds me of the metallics found in Bronze and also some of the metallics found in Sunrise. You really got to warm it up because up close it could be a little crumbly, so you have to use the warmth of your finger to get nice adherence there. Maybe plop on some primer before, or if you have Pat's Intensifies, you could apply that first. If you find yourself blending and you lost some of the shine intensity, just go back in with your finger and reapply. Putting in more zest, you know, the zest needs to stay. What shall we do on the outer V? If we wanted to do anything, maybe we don't have to do anything. Maybe I'll just use Starlet and kind of feather out the edges here and just pull it out slightly. And I could use Bellini also. But something in me says, well, you know what? Tell that voice to just hold on for a second. I got like a few more looks to do. I need to see Bubble. Bubble, Cornflower, anything. It's such a tough shade, I think, to create. And I'm so happy Natasha went with the cream to powder formula for this shade. Yes, I feel it has better adherence than the traditional powder matte. And she had also mentioned this in her stories where she committed to having a lot of the pastel shades come in the cream to powder formula because it will then lead to more vibrant application. And I think she's correct in that assessment, especially with a shade like Zest. Very happy that it's in the cream to powder formula. Building up Bubble, as I want it to appear as the standout inner lower lash line color. What can we do here to complete the lower lash line look? Well, we could do Bora, which is the lilac shade. That might be a little crazy, but you know what? I'm curious as to how that will look. I don't think it'll look too out of place as it's still a lilac and therefore I feel soft on the application. Well, that's pretty. I'm placing more Starlet here on the outer part of the lid, as well as just pulling it a little bit out beyond the lash line. All right, eye number one, done. Bubble with my finger. I need to see this all over the lid. I need to know what this is gonna do in terms of just fully committing to this cornflower shade. And yes, you might be wondering, you know, Alicia, these are a little too light. It's just like, it's a lot going on in this palette. I would say this is the pastel version of Circo Loco, where that released last year. More vibrant for sure. You got a little more gem tones in here, a little heartier in that delivery. And Trio Chrome is more muted. Like Zest, I feel I could use with Ion and also Vert. That's gonna be a killer eye look. But I'm using my finger to apply Bubble as I want the cornflower blue to kind of punch out and forward, you know what I mean? Now with Airy, I'm gonna place that in the crease. This is very, very blue. This is fun. I like these springy types of looks. You know, it's a moment. If you primarily gravitate towards neutrals, this is a whole other place entirely. I do want to go with Duet as our inner corner shade, but because Duet is so lightweight, I'm feathering it over Bubble as like a veil, because since the flip takes on a similar color to Bubble, I think it a fitting addition to this look. Pulling it in and under towards the lower lash line here, and taking Bubble now on the lower lash line all the way across. A little bit of Airy because I think that's a nice just kind of completion of the gradient here. And just a touch of limoncello on the very inner part of the inner corner to further highlight that spot, and I think it lovely when applied over Duet. And with pastels, the more fluffed out it is, I think the better it looks, or it establishes itself as like the pastel look. If you just apply cornflower on the lid, you can do that, and you could also pair it with different shades in here. But if you want to just use one shade, I think you should trust the approach of just putting it everywhere. See how it looks. Maybe after completing the look, you're like, Alicia, I don't like it. Well, now you know for sure. But if you end up loving it, then this is the way to go. I'm applying Bubble with my Refer 3 using a pencil brush just to get the nooks and crannies, because again, when fully committing to a look that just relies on a pastel shade, you gotta make sure there's nothing uncovered. All right, let's apply some lashes and I'll be right back. And here is the final look from Demo 1. On the lashes, I have Chandelier lashes in Classic Charm. And on the lips, I have the Hindash Lip Tone Pencil in Hush with NATASHA Denona's I Need a Nude lipstick in Michelle. I love this. This is fun. I knew this would be the route that I would go when encountering the pastel palette, and especially being familiar with Natasha's application style. When dealing with these types of shades, you see, especially on the tutorials that she has on her IG page, she likes to juxtapose colors, place them next to each other, overlap them. Less about blending shades together, more about layering and piecing together. And I think if you approach this palette with that perspective, with that technique, you will be successful. If you love these shades, listen, these are pastels all the way. If you want to deepen the shades, then if you have other NATASHA Denona palettes, then for instance, if you want it more purple from Bora, then you can go into bronze with, hold on. You could use Deep Dye, which is more the eggplant color, or I believe is Commitment in the Love palette. So there are opportunities within the NATASHA Denona collection that you can create similar looks without having to buy the pastel palette, and we'll cover that more when getting into the comparisons. But I think this is fairly easy to use. I mean, this was just, well, 3 shades, yes, but cornflower all over the lid, lash line, use Airy to blend out the edges, plopped on Duet, and 4th shade, I'm a liar, Limoncello on the very inner part of the corner. The first eye was just like placing colors here, first on the inner corner, then the lid, then the crease, inner lash line, and outer, and you're done. I feel this is about, again, placing colors first, blurring the edges after. Further exploring that approach in the next demo. So let's take these lashes off and I'll be back in a minute. We gotta check out Illusion at some point because that's the new formula. How about Tulle? Let's see what Tulle is giving us. Back in with my Sonia G, Lotus Worker. Plopping that right on. Well, center is fine. I'm actually gonna take it closer towards the inner corner because this is pretty light on me. Could serve as highlight. But that's what it's giving us. Now with Illusion, the new Veil Duochrome formula, it doesn't have a ton of shine. It's more so, it has that flip, although placing it over the cream to powder is going to dull the effect. So if you want more of like that pink flip, sure, you can apply Illusion over Tulle. But if you want more of a shine, then Illusion will have to go over an actual duochrome or metallic, just based on what I see now. Let's go in with Bora, and I'm placing that on the outer part of my lid. So let's bracket Tulle, and again, fluffy shaders I think will be your friend when it comes to Natasha's cream to powder formula. That's what I see Natasha use in a lot of her demos. She's going in like this, and then she's dropping it hot like this, tappity tap tap. There's no swirling and twirling. It's just the pat, the Natasha pat. And to feather out the edges, let's go with feather. Right on the edges here. It's very light, very light. You could have gone in with another pastel. I think no matter how you pair these together, it's going to be quite pretty. And it's funny, in comparison to Hindash's palette, the Monochromance palette, this is Dote from Antidote, and Bora from Natasha's palette is a lot lighter. And I think it also cooler in undertone. So that's why when applying Bora, it takes on more of a vibrant pastel look versus Dote, which could be a good thing since people saw that color and they were like, I don't know if I could do that. It's a nice everyday shade, I should say. Bora on the lower lash line. I know I did this on the first demo when I was plopping all types of shades together. Let's do Mint Frost, why not, on the inner lower lash line to brighten it up. Introduce another shade. because why not? And then with that same pencil brush, applying more illusion on the inner corner to have it more pronounced with its highlight roll. A little more tulle here, right in the middle of everything. Okay. Well, we didn't do the mint, so maybe we could go in with Adriatic first. Adriatic is the more teal of the bunch, and I will just place that right smack in the middle of everything. In the description on the product card, it had also said you can go more monochromatic and stick to the same shades in the palette or block them together, however you like. Then we can take Mint Frost on the inner part of the lid, because I do want to use Limoncello as our highlight again, and I'm picking up more Adriatic to lift it higher towards the crease. Again, once you've applied the color where you want, you can tap on more on the lid for it to look more shiny. Brisk, I'm taking now on the crease, because this is going to be our blend out shade to finish the edges of Adriatic. You know, if you want it, you could use Adriatic and maybe blend out the edges, but since it's a tight metallic, I'm not sure how well that will fare out. So you could pull it up higher or use Brisk to give it more of that gradient effect. These are very powdery, so up close you see there is a lot of kickback when punching your brush in there, so just be wary of that. Some people hate that, some people don't mind it. Limoncello again here on the inner corner. And since we did the cornflower eye on the first demo, maybe we can introduce another color. You know what? I want to do Zest as our lower lash line color of choice. I think that'd be a nice contrast to the mint story that's happening on the lid. Changing over to my worker brush because I want that to appear a little more hazy and more punchy in color. Let's bring in a little more Limoncello here, overlapping Zest, so that part of the eye can appear brighter. And I'll also use my pencil brush to just bring in more zest closer to the lash line. And actually, let's do more zest on the inner part here. I think it's fun to kind of bring it up towards the brow because it's nice to have it on the bottom and top, and then on the center you have more of the mint story going on. Tapping on more Adriatic because now that we have Brisk, that's going to catch any of the traveling Adriatic does in terms of gradient, so it doesn't look abrupt, it just looks smooth. So if you wanted to go all matte, you could stick to this. I do want to apply, maybe we could do both. Let's do Duet first. So I'm taking my finger and I'm placing Duet right on top of Tulle, and that's gonna have more of a teal flip. If you want, you could check out Dainty. I think Dainty has more sparkle. That has definitely a little more twinkle to it. So you can place that on the inner part of the eye and then have Duet closer to the outer lid. So that, you know, that's fun to do if you wanted to take that route. It will appear more shiny if you apply it on its own, fresh on a primer. Since I am layering these shades over the cream to powder, is going to dull the finish a little bit, which I don't mind, and that's a technique you can use if you weren't too sure about those colors. You feel more comfortable placing the mattes down first and then going in with the shiny, totally fine. All right, lashes time. I'll be right back. And here is a final wide shot of demo number 2 using mostly the lilacs. On the other side, we use the mints and the zest shade. I think it definitely calls more attention than your typical neutral look, like something I would create from the Flora Kalahari palette from Byredo, or even the Tom Ford Smoky Quartz. You know what would look beautiful with this palette? The Vital Surgeon's Weathered Woods collection, because although they're not pastel, they're very frosty in nature, and to pair those shades with these colors, I think will be really pretty. In terms of formula, Pastels are tricky, and I am happy Natasha went with the cream to powder formula for most of the pastel shades in here. Now keep in mind the cream to powder texture is very moussey in nature. It's not meant to be super pigmented because Natasha wanted to create a formula that's easy to blend and apply. So depending on what brush you use will determine how long you're going to keep intensifying whatever said color. That's why I highly suggest a very dense fluffy crease brush. Fluffy meaning it has some length that you can blend at the end if you like, but you want the initial pickup to be robust. And the more traditional powder mattes in here are pretty good. They're not going to give you the same color richness I feel when applying them as a blend out shade. For instance, when I used Brisk to blend out Adriatic, Brisk is not as prominent as the turquoise shade, but if you want that to come forward, then you would apply Brisk on its own on a lighter primer across the lid. But it's nice to have these lighter powder mattes because I think you need that transition color to create a softer gradient so that the metallic doesn't look so abrupt on the lid, especially when you blend out the edges. It has that powder matte to carry it over, if you will, and have a softer blur look to the eyes. I can't wait to use this palette again. I wanted to end the demo here because we still have to cover comparisons, as many of you are always interested in. First we have Duet and Dainty, and again, Duet is the teal flip and Dainty is the pink with the golden champagne sparkle. I immediately thought of Aster from Sunrise. This shade here is very similar to Duet, except Aster has more crumb to it, as you see. And I think a deeper, more of a plum base, whereas Duet is more of a lilac base. And I also thought of Mother Pat's Utopian Dream. Astral Amethyst Moon, totally different formula. Totally different formula. This is going to give you more twinkle, dazzle, and shine. It's not going to have the same smoothness as Duet, but they're basically like the same color story. In fact, I know this is, if you wanted, you can tap this on top of Duet. I think that would be beautiful. Kinetic from Trio Chrome, more of a, this is definitely like a heartier lavender. How would you know? Royal purple. You can see that Duet is way lighter, but to pair those together, I think will be quite lovely. Now, looking at Trio Chrome, Naga compared to Feather. Naga is the lavender matte here, which I feel, let's see here, this might be a little lighter. So this is Naga from Trio Chrome, Feather from Pastel. Feather, they're very similar. They're similar for sure. I think Feather has a little more lilac in there. Naga a touch lighter there, like there's more white in the color. Manganese is the powder matte from Trio Chrome compared to Bora from our pastel palette. Now, because I've used Bora with cream to powders in Natasha formula, you really gotta dig into it now, because to pick up enough color, that's what's required. So there you go. We got Bora back on there. Manganese has more depth, so if you want a little more smoke, go in with Manganese. Xena from the Tropic palette, we're looking at a traditional powder matte that has actually more of a lilac, so quite pretty. If you have Tropic, you have mint and limoncello in there already. Gusti doesn't exist in the pastel palette, but Starlet kind of reminds me of that shade. So here is Gusti from the Tropic palette. Is a little drier, you know, it has like the blue flecks in there. And Starlet, more hearty in terms of the formula, but it's more pink coral. And I thought bronze when I saw Starlet. Bliss definitely more pink. I saw this and said, okay, maybe it could be similar, but let's give it a swatch. This is Bliss from the bronze palette. So I think that has more gold, whereas Starlit is like more coral. You can let me know down below. Circo Loco, you know what? Circo Loco has a lot going on. I would say there's no like hearty medium pinks in pastel like you could find in Joker. Cotton Candy, we have the light pastel pink, which we have Tulle. So Tulle from the pastel palette is still very light, right? So this is Tulle, and Cotton Candy from Circo Loco is lighter than Tulle. Snow Cone from Circo is more of an icy blue, whereas Mint Frost from the pastel palette is definitely more mint. But listen, if you have Circo Loco, you could use Snow Cone as like your inner corner highlight like I did with Mint Frost. If you already have the Tropic palette, great. We have Breath from Zendo, and this is the cream to powder formula. So that's from Zendo. Then we have Brisk, a more traditional powder matte. So you get a little more punch from that shade. They are similar, especially if you were to just use Breath as I did here with Brisk to feather out the edges of that metallic shade. Fun to Mime from Circo Loco compared to Airy and Bubble from Pastel. So here's Fun to Mime. Fun to Mime is like an aqua, and actually that's a cream to powder formula. So let's go in with Airy, which is traditional powder matte, and I'll go in with Bubble, which is a cream to powder. So here we go. We got Airy from Pastel, and we have Bubble from Pastel. Fun to Mime, as you see, has more of like that mint look to it. And the last one I wanted to do is between Ion and Zest. Ion is found in Trio Chrome as well as Vert. So let's quickly do that. I'll use the back of my hand instead. So we have Ion, and now we have Zest. Zest is more lime, is lighter. Ion has more of like that, it's like a mossy lime. It's a little more muted, but I'm looking forward in combining those shades because Ion you really need to build or make sure you apply it on a lighter primer so it can amplify that hue. And Zest is great on its own because it is the cream to powder formula. It's going to deliver a little more punch from the get. All in all, I enjoyed the pastel palette. I enjoyed the looks that I created, and going into the spring season, I recognize the inspiration, and I probably am more inclined to wear these shades more often considering that the season is near, and nice to just pull away from the neutrals, the bronzes and the browns for a little bit and try the pastel shades. But as I said in my Hindash video, which don't know if I'll upload that before this, but I had mentioned when having this new palette, remembering what I have so that I can kind of integrate everything and not forget what's in my collection. So it all started with the Tom Ford Smoky Quartz, and then I bought the Vital Surgeon's Weathered Woods cream shadows, the Flora Kalahari palette by Rito, and now Hindash's Monochromance palette, and I have this. I think those are great palettes that I can intermingle with, especially Hindash and the pastel palette for sure. If I wanted to add a little more shine to Antidote, I can use Duet and Dainty, and you know, just kind of experiment here and there. And carrying both palettes is not that bad. I mean, it's going to take up more space, but not terrible, only because Hindash has the neutrals in here as well, and I can use Heavy Petal Heartthrob for blush and fully commit to the pastel shades from Natasha's palette, add in a little bit of Forever Inked, Antidote, however I wanted to pull the look. But I'm basically saying I'm happy with what I've acquired. in the last couple of weeks, and I'll be back on here for more looks using the pastel palette. But let me know if you want to see a mashup video, maybe combining pastel with Trio Chrome or pastel with Circo Loco, pastel with Tropic. Why not? Because Tropic has a bunch of neutrals in here with the Wham Bam row at the bottom. Nice to see, you know, what looks we can create with that and all that fun stuff. Let me know down below if you are looking to grab the pastel palette. If you're skipping it, I'll see you down in the comments, fam. And until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, NATASHA DENONA Extravaganza, monthly favorites, or vlog. Take care, and I will see you again soon.